Whenever you see a retrace that's around 70 pages long, you know shit's gonna go down. It happened with Oscar's death, it happened with Jack's reveal, and now this. This is Retrace 92, a story. I'll get to the elephant in the room last. First, let's talk about the other things. First, I came across a good possible explanation for why Echo is so different now than she was in the origin flashback. That this is a new Echo, like the previous Echo was discarded, because, Noise keeps saying, and she says again in this chapter, that Echo is a disposable personality. So it's entirely possible there may be, or may have been, more than one Echo. That's why the original Echo in the origin flashback acted so different than the one that does now. Either that, or there was just some drastic change in character that we still have to see and how that happened. But that's one possible theory this sounds pretty legitimate to me. We'll find out, though. Moving from there, pretty sure Zai's dead, and that was a very well-handled death, too. I mean, I didn't expect Zai to die this chapter. I don't know when I expected him to die, but not this early, and the same could be said for the other one. But this was really handled well. It highlighted Oz's development over the series too, because he went through so much shit, man. He went through so much, and this was really satisfying to see him stand up for himself against his father and say, you know what, no, I don't need you anymore. I'm my own person. I don't need you to acknowledge me. If you don't acknowledge me, that's fine. It was great to see that. And I got the feeling that Zai, no matter how much he may have hated it, did have respect for Oz in the end, some of it. Or he at least wanted to acknowledge him just a little bit, but he couldn't allow himself to because of his hatred for Jack. And I get that feeling because of the last look on his face that we see, and the goodbye thought bubble as he falls down the wall. It gave that kind of vibe, and I'm pretty sure that goodbye thought bubble was not from Oz because he already said goodbye. But yeah, it would be pretty odd if that was Oz thinking that. I'm 99% sure it was Zai, and if Zai was thinking that, then there is that kind of implication that goes along with it, that he wanted to say goodbye, or some part of him wanted to say goodbye, wanted to acknowledge him, but he just couldn't because he hated him. He hated Jack too much. Now I'm really wondering what happened to Griffin, though. I mean, we're still waiting to see what caused everyone to fall off of him, and now also why he was unavailable for Zai to use this chapter. He would have come in really handy this time. If Zai brought out Griffin, he wouldn't be dead right now. Probably. Moving on to later in the chapter, Leo stood up for himself again, and it's good to see him getting that involvement in again, that he's starting to, come out of the shell he's been in ever since Jack impaled him. And Vincent looks like he's starting this conclusive character arc here. Brake is kind of head-starting that, but it looks like Brake's going to be more in the background on this one. That's more going to be centered around Leo, because Leo really does care about Vincent after what Vincent did for him, and I love that it shows that he still appreciates what Vincent did for him, and what he did for Elliot, and that he still has some link to the world. The callback to Retrace 5 was surprising as hell, though. I didn't see that coming at all. It came out of nowhere. It impresses me when Mochi Jun makes these little links in the story that you don't see coming. And revealing Brake's thoughts in Retrace 5 here did a really good job of highlighting how much has changed since then with him. How he's really grown close to Oz and the others more and more over the course of the story, which is an effective addition to this chapter in particular because of Brake's death. Brake was my favorite character, and his death here was fantastic. I mean, let's go through the different aspects of it. For one, I was wondering if him being a child of misfortune was going to come into play this late in the game. And it did. He was able to help the others get ahead before he gave out. And No, I was not expecting him to die this early. I kind of hinted that earlier with Zai, but I wasn't expecting either of these deaths to happen this chapter. I was thinking that was going to happen later on, or that Break would die like after the story was finished. But nope, nope. It happened this early on. He took out Glenn's arm, by the way, which was nice job, Break. Though it does now suck that Leo doesn't have an arm. But what are you gonna do? He has Oswald in control, and there's not much else he could have done. And now, like looking back at the past few chapters and everything, the obvious foreshadowing to Break's death, it fits more. It works more now than it did. Like it was really obvious that he was gonna die from those foreshadowing events, but it was approaching the point of being almost too obvious. Whereas like he can't die now because of it's way too obvious for Mochijin to do something like that. But no, it happened way. The only reason I was really thinking that was I was thinking his death was going to happen way later in the story, if it happened at all. But no, it happened relatively recently after those events, and that flowed together really well. So those previous like obvious things, it fits. It fits. And out of the major characters that died on screen, I think Break died the most peacefully. I mean, Oscar was shot by his brother. Elliot ended up in a pool of blood. And I don't know how much pain Elliot was in. It's actually kind of painful to think about that. Like, God, how much has that felt? Ugh. But Break died relatively quietly and peacefully. He collapsed in the arms of the two people he loved most in the end. And though it does kind of feel like, even though he died the most peacefully in terms of like mood, he seemed the least willing to embrace death. Like Oscar seemed like he was, perfectly fine with it. He knew what was going to happen. He went out with a smile on his face. Well, to be fair, Break probably went out with a smile on his face too. We don't really see it, but Break, did have that last moment of I don't want to die. But the other two, they seemed pretty content with it. Even Elliot, in the end, who hated that idea of self-sacrifice, he was willing in the end. He went out confidently to get rid of Humpty Dumpty. But Break had that kind of opposite mentality, and that's pretty interesting. Like, he died with the least physical wounds, you could say, but his mentality was more, I don't want to die, than the others. It seems like it, anyways. I'm gonna miss you, Break. Thank you. You've been there with us for 92 or no, 91. 91. I think his first appearance was in Retrace 2. But you've been there for a long time, and it sucks seeing you go. But if you had to go, this is how you had to go. And it was great. Mochijun, you're doing a great job. Keep up the amazing work. Please. You're doing great. Thank you for making this story. Loving it practically every step of the way. And I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen next Retrace. Even though I know most of the rest of the fandom is terrified considering, this chapter. But we'll find out. I'll see you guys later on the next Retrace.